Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes, with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya, and thank God it's Friday, of course. That's what some people say. Yeah.
All right, today is Friday, the 5th of November, 2021. And, it is indeed a beautiful morning here in the capital. I am Dashan Husseina Usman. Thanks for joining us.
Well, the show is packed today, really, because we are going to be looking at a whole lot. Now, as the world focuses its attention on the climate change conference, what are the conversations regarding the climate action in Nigeria? We'll be joined by an expert to give us perspectives on that issue. And
Fatima Muhammad Salis, popularly known as Sals Fatiti, will also be joining us to discuss challenges of being a hijabi music artist in a conservative society. And also, we will be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak.
All right, before that, let's take a look at the events of the 5th of October in world history. What really transpired?
right, so today is World Tsunami Awareness Day. It is also Bank Transfer Day. It is a Commercial TV Broadcast Day. And in 1840, Afghanistan surrenders to the British Army. In 1872, Susan B. Anthony is arrested for trying to vote. In 1914, France and Great Britain declared war on Turkey. And in 2006, former president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, is sentenced to death for the massacre of 148 Shia Muslims in 1982. We also have another day. In 1995, assassination attempt on Canadian Prime Minister. And in 1943, Vatican City was bombed. All right, so like we said earlier, today is World Tsunami Awareness Day. And it was actually a day created specifically to create awareness on tsunamis in the world.
Very interesting. I mean, how interesting. I mean, when you look at the climate change summits, ongoing at the moment, it just comes like a time for us to have a reminder that, look, these things, they exist, and why we need to take these agreements at the summit very seriously, beyond just the talking, beyond just the signing of the agreements and all of that. So it's, I would say, timely for us to reflect, on this, really, to create that awareness.
Yes, and then remember today, the first commercial TV broadcast ever in history was actually aired on TV. First commercial or advert, as we call it, and it was it lasted just 10 seconds. It was just for 10 seconds.
And interesting. And since then, TV commercials have become part of the broadcasting industry.
Exactly.
TV houses, broadcast stations, they survive on the commercials.
Yes,
really.
And then it has evolved over time, and so much creativity is being put into adverts and all that. So.
And many people are employed. Many people have come to have a career in advertising and all of that, and it's really a plus to our world.
It is
to our evolution as human beings,
and also to our career, a kind of job. All right, and then finally in 1872, Susan B. Anthony was arrested, for casting a vote. And back then it was a crime for a woman to vote, but she felt she was a feminist in that time, and she felt she needed to express herself and do something about it, and express her franchise and all that. So she went to vote.
Consequences.
Yeah, she did damn the consequences, but she was arrested, and there was a whole trial. It was a really big thing back then, but see where we are today.
Exactly. When you look back, you see how the world has evolved politically in terms of even gender balance, in terms of women involvement in politics, and all of that. So it's a plus. Although for us in this part of the world, Africa, Nigeria, we still have a long way to go, I would say. Not just Nigeria and Africa, but even the world over. A whole lot needs to be done when it comes to female participation in politics and governance. It's important that we create that balance, because that's the only way you get to see flow and exchange of ideas, because nobody knows everything.
But do you think the women themselves are interested in politics?
Well, it has to be, I would say, in my opinion, engineered politically. It has to be, they have to be made to be interested. It's not easy after being of something for decades, after not being part of something for all your life. While growing up, all you know is that women folk are supposed to just remain in the kitchen, and certain roles are assigned, and so you are not to tamper with that. So it takes a lot of deconstructing of the thinking and all of that. So if it means pushing to make that happen, even if they are not, that's if they are not interested.
Yes, well,
but again, I know that there are some that are actually interested.
Yes, and I believe we would actually get there, because you have a lot of women who are presidents already. So, we'll get there. All right, let's take a look at the dailies today. And today we have Suleiman, the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Daily Trust. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Now, before we take a look at the dailies, we have our weather forecast, and that's a new segment we're introducing on the show. Take a look at that, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the stories that made the headlines.
necessarily tribal or regional.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak, reaching you from Trust Television live in the nation's capital. Going straight into the newspaper review of the day, and the Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust newspaper, Suleiman is in the studio to review the papers with us. Now, we'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The first story there says OPEC raises Nigeria's oil production bar to 1.666 million barrels per day. You'd also find, after Daily Trust report, FG raises committees to implement Orosanya report. That's on page 46. Ikoyi building collapse. Owner's body recovered 3 days after. And that's on the page 20, on page 49. Now, the lead story on Daily Trust will interest you. Is an exclusive documentary put together by Trust TV, which will be airing later today. It's about Shekau, a town in Borno State, and we had an exclusive interview with the mother of the former leader of Boko Haram, Shekau, who is popularly known by the name of his town by virtue of adopting the name. The mother says, "I regret giving birth to Shekau." That's according to a mother. The writer there says he was stubborn, according to the district head. You'd find that details of that story on page 5, and then to have more insight into that story, you would watch the documentary that will premiere on Trust TV by 7 p.m. today, with a repeat at 10 p.m. We would also be having the team that worked on this, one of the members of the team that worked on this documentary in the studio, just to throw light on the story. Now, beside that, the pictorial there shows you the community of Shekau. You'd see MTN Group to sell 575 million shares to Nigerian investors, issues 90 billion naira bond. You would see also COVID-19, PSC Health Ministry clash over 1.2 billion treatment fund. Nigerians trapped in net of bad governance, insecurity. That's according to Atiku. Akwa Ibom governor proffers solution for country's unity. At the very bottom, you'd find the story about Anambra governorship election. IPOP backtracks, ask residents to vote. The writer says council sit at home order. That's an interesting story you want to look at on page 50 of Daily Trust newspaper. Well, I would say, well, that's commendable. It's good that IPOP is now listening to its elders and traditional leaders, not to go the route in which they were going. Otherwise, what would have happened is better imagined, I think.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the next paper, which is the Punch newspaper. And at the very top, you'd find a story there that says federal government telecom firms disagree over proposed cost of 5G spectrum. And you can find details of that story on page 18. Government officials, Esther Codes, others gulp $3.9 billion in 1 year. And this is according to a report found in page 15. Federal government orders 10,000 tractors, others from Brazil, to boost agric. We have yet another story that says National Assembly tackles Amechi over Nigeria-Niger Republic rail line, others. And you can find details of that on page 15. All right, the major headline here on the front page of Punch newspaper is on Ikoyi building. And it says developer, friends' corpses recovered. Death toll hits 40. Wow, that's really a sad one. I remember yesterday they were still searching for the owner of the building, and he's been found today, and then the developer and friends' corpses as well. Then families lament delay in identifying corpses, conflicting casualty figures. And then another writer here says Sanwo-Olu declares 3-day mourning, cancels official engagements. Moving on to more stories, on page 3 you'd find Soludo Uba Ozigbo, others sign accord, IPOB cancels sit at home. And on page 12 you'd find EFCC releases Obi Cubana after 3 days grilling on money laundering and tax fraud. And on page 8, Ogun local government chair faults commissioner over demolition of forest reserves. Still on page 8, cultists, robbers, kidnappers hiding under IPOB's name to unleash mayhem. And this is attributed to the Southeast governors. And right on the bottom, female rep orders Omo Agege's aides arrest, alleges intimidation, and SSA denies. And you can find that story on page 3. On page 4 and 5, police kill three during clash with Lagos tricycle operators over 100 naira. Really sad one there. And then finally on page 5, police hunters Amotekun kill Ekiti suspected kidnapper, AK-47 rifle and cash recovered. And these are the stories we have on the front page of Punch newspaper.
All right, the next paper, The Nation, is next. What we're looking at is APC orders warring oil groups to reconcile. That's on page 6 of The Nation. The next story there says 360,000 download eNaira's Speed Wallet app. Well, recall that that app was received with, mixed reactions. Some people were skeptical about, the app, and especially because after about 24 hours after the launch, it went down from the Google Play Store.
Most banks have actually adopted the app in their apps as well.
So that's very interesting.
You can have your eNaira wallet in your bank app.
More Nigerians should be able to do that. I would say I encourage more Nigerians to do that. You would find the next story there saying 5G operators reject $1.97 million spectrum fee. Also, Transcorp's PBT grew by 671% in the third quarter. The late story on The Nation talks about, let's take Anambra 2021. Above the late story there, it says, IPOP, we didn't order 1 week sit at home. Okay. The next rider to that says, NBC warns against scary broadcast. INEC begins distribution of sensitive materials. So if IPOP didn't order the 1 week sit at home order,
who did?
There wouldn't be need for me to ask the question. Well, the lead story there says, body of collapsed Lagos building owner retrieved. Death toll rises to 33. Families register 19 missing persons. You'd also find MTN Nigeria completes issuance of 89.9 billion naira bonds. Other stories there says Okonkwo, Soludo, Uba, Ozigbo pledge peaceful Anambra poll. These are some of the stories that are making the headlines on The Nation today.
Okay, well, on Guardian newspaper, we actually have a conflicting story, a conflicting headline here, and it says IPOP cancels sit-at-home order, asks Anambrarians to vote tomorrow. As opposed to them saying they did not order a sit-at-home order. All right. Now, we have a lot of riders here, and it says security concerns heighten as gunmen kill 6 policemen 48 hours to election. Southeast governors, criminals using IPOB's name to kill innocent citizens. Governorship candidates sign peace agreement. IGP orders restriction of vehicular movement. CDD warns security agencies against violation of voters' rights. Bianca Wright's late husband, Ojukwu, asks him to hold Obiano responsible if APGA fails to win. And then we have more stories here on the front page of Guardian. And Pakistani government petitioned over activities of embassy in Nigeria. You can find details of that story on page 3. 3,797 teachers killed, 150 schools touched by Bay States, says NEDC. And then on page 3 still, government moves to implement Orosoye reports on rationalization of federal agencies. All right, and then we have one final story here at the bottom, and you find that on page 24, and it says, panel insists police produce officers allegedly linked to extrajudicial killing.
All right,
Yes.
well, the final paper I'll be looking at today is the Nigerian Tribune, and on the Nigerian Tribune, you have the first story there talking about the Ikoyi building collapse. Lagos declares 3-day mourning, flags to fly at half-mast, body of developer found. You'd find that on page 26. I hope that by the end of the morning and after everything, we will be more serious about ensuring that standards are maintained in constructions and that people are not compromised, and we do not see such cutting of corners, because that's what led to this.
Exactly.
Someone is responsible for this.
Because the owner lost his life, and imagine the investment put into that particular building in the first place.
Really,
So
huge investment, and who knows where the funding came from.
Exactly.
It could have been borrowed.
exactly.
And so what would the lender be doing now, and what would he be thinking now?
It's a really sad one, honestly.
So that's just aside the loss of lives. Now you would find all the stories below the nameplate there. Nigerians trapped in net of poverty, bad governance. That's according to bad governance and insecurity as well. That's according to the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. You'd find also FG set to scrap, merge some agencies. Well, we've been hearing that. The Oransay report that there have been quite a lot of conversations. In fact, the Daily Trust did a story on that. The issue about scrapping of some agencies and merging some with some by way of reducing cost of governance, that everyone agrees that is quite on the high side. All right, we would also see reps probe $163 billion abandoned gas assets and others. The lead story says Anambra poll, IPOP cancels sit-at-home order. UBA, Ozigbo, Soludo, others sign peace accord. The other writer says IGP restricts vehicular movement. That's on page 3. Oyo APC crisis. Stakeholders get 1 week to harmonize positions. Protest as policemen allegedly stab tricyclist to death over bribe in Lagos. You'd also see the stories at the bottom. 2022 budget, FG to partner states for food security, promote financial inclusion. Britain approves world's first COVID-19 pill. At the very bottom on page 29, the story says ASU gives FG 48 hours to rescue victims of Uni Abuja kidnap. Well, these are some of the stories that made the headlines. Let's go straight into the review. We have in the studio Suleiman, Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust newspaper. First, let's get the idea behind leading with the story about Shikau, on Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Well, the idea is obvious. We are trying to show, first of all, the quality of journalism that we do, the fact that we thought it's important, it's interesting for Nigerians to know how someone can, in fact, rise from their mother's upbringing and turn into a danger to the whole country. So we wanted people to know what, people around him thought, what he was like when he was growing up, whether certain aspects of what he later became were already evident when he was already growing up, because sometimes some people grow up with what they became is what they were even when they were children. So we wanted to do that kind of investigative reporting, and happily we did, and we're rolling it out later today. In fact, our Armenia has already our Hausa version paper has already launched with it this morning, and as I understand, lots of other media are already poaching our story and going to town with it, which again shows you how significant, how important this story is, but also shows you how in today's social media people done. The social media model is you don't produce your own content. You just find content produced by other people, which costs money, you know, and in terms of personnel, in terms of equipment, and so many other things. And then you put them together, and then
you know, as the editor-in-chief, I would just like to ask that how does it really feel to, you know, be like a double-edged sword now? Beyond telling the stories on paper, you are now going ahead to show the stories on TV.
Well, that's part of, again, another of our models, multi-platform journalism. We are a media company, not just a newspaper. You understand? You know, we do journalism across all the platforms upon which we can do journalism. We have a newspaper, we have a TV now, you know, which we are on right now. We have digital, we have social media handles through which we promote our stories and engage with audiences. And then we also have the website, and then the podcast, you know, and then of course we're looking to have the radio anytime soon. So our journalism, we're about the only media company in the country which does journalism in this way. So it's important to have cross-flow of content across the various platforms.
I remember when the whole Boko Haram menace started, I think just one journalist was allowed into their camp, you know, to interview them and, you know, tell the whole world what was happening. What do you have to say about, you know, frontline journalists and the risks they take?
Well, when people say frontline journalists, sometimes they're just joking. You know, they're just making claims, you know, particularly for us here, because I had friends who understand the territory in the Northeast at the peak of the conflict, and they told me at the time that many local reporters particularly had already deserted that area at that time. They weren't reporting news about Boko Haram particularly because they were afraid of their lives. So sometimes people can say, okay, I'm in Maiduguri, but he doesn't report Boko Haram. He reports on every other thing from Maiduguri, but not the real thing that was happening at the time, and still claim to be frontline journalists by merely being located there. And, you know, because there are attractions, you know, that come with that, you know, opportunities from foreign organizations, from, you know, fellowships and so on and so forth. So because of this, people just claim themselves to be. And then there is this episodic or parachute kind of frontline journalist who follows maybe CNN or Reuters or any of these other international media organizations, and then jump into town yesterday, does the story, and by tomorrow morning he's already out, and then he calls himself that he's gone frontline, you know. And then there is also the dimension of the power that the country the journalist is from has. Some journalists particularly the foreign correspondents coming from countries like US or Britain, they can influence our military formations in ways that the Nigerian journalists cannot. So they can be allowed to be embedded inside the military troops that are fighting Boko Haram, and then to get original stories of what's actually going on. I'm sure you've seen lots of that on social media, but they wouldn't give you that kind of access, or even me that kind of access, merely because they see us as local journalists. So these are some of the issues that I think.
Well, it's quite commendable that it's, well, if you want to see what this whole shakeout thing is all about, maybe you should tune to the channel by 7 p.m. today, and a repeat of that. A repeat of that is by 10 p.m. on channel 164.
I think I would say that it's not if they want to see. I think it's a must to see. So they must see it and then tune to our channel at 7 p.m.
Okay, well, another story making the headline here is the issue of the Anambra governorship election. Certainly, as one of our political, I would say the political editor here, the story is quite interesting that we see IPOP is, you know, backtracking its decision, even denouncing that, you know, seat at home order that was initially pronounced. What's your reaction to this?
Well, it's a little complex, I think, and I don't accept that they are denouncing in the way in which people are pushing it, because it's interesting that all the other media, all the newspapers are reporting the same thing. IPOB denounced councils or backtracks and all that. From the point of view of analysis, it could mean so many different things. It could mean that it is indeed IPOB that are saying this, and their spokespersons were quoted in this story. But it could also mean that they don't see any way out, because there's a lot about what's going on in the South. It's just like what's going on in the Northwest. There is simply self-harm. People are not harming the federal government, just themselves. Their own people, their own. You understand? The federal government here is in Abuja, and the federal government doesn't have ethnicity. It is, it is federal government of Nigeria. And then in anger to that one, you start bombing your own people's shops, or your own people's homes, or your own people's farms, or start to kill, as we see, especially in the Northeast. And in the Northwest, your own people. That's I don't know what to call it, but it doesn't look like agitation for anything. It's just self-harm to me.
The federal government, as we know, is actually doing everything it takes to make sure that the election is free and fair. And we recently, heard in reports that the Inspector General of Police has withdrawn security details from, the leaders and those who are planning to, contest. But do you think that will change anything?
In terms of?
Election rigging, because we've also seen videos of some of the contestants, bribing their way.
Well, we're not sure whether that video is, in fact, a video of what's going on in Anambra State. So we cannot be totally sure in the first place, because during election periods, what normally happens is that you have a heightened level of fake news.
Okay.
So it could have been something that has happened somewhere earlier. It could still be from Anambra, so we don't know yet. Until we have some authentication by maybe some fact checkers. Let's say that we don't know. But yes, there is a possibility of vote buying and vote trading. Buying and selling of votes. But overall, I don't think that the credibility of the elections themselves would be. I don't see anything much that is going on now that will make me feel that the credibility of the election is threatened. Because here's the thing. Since 2011 to date, up to until tomorrow, when INEC is having the election in Anambra State, the quality of elections and the integrity of elections in Nigeria has actually been improving. It's just that we still have that cynicism about whatever government does, about what, you understand, especially when some people don't win, they feel that it is because the election was rigged against them. So you're likely to have that. But in terms of the processes and procedures of conducting the elections and safeguards that will ensure that the elections are credible, I think INEC has actually been improving in the last 10 years. So, and given that evidence, and I'm not just saying it, the evidence is there. Given that evidence, I am hopeful that the election will be credible. This doesn't mean that it will be 100% full, or that there will be no problem such as the vote buying you are saying, or such as attempts by thugs, or in this ward or another polling booth and so on. There are likely to be this. But overall, chances are that they may not be significant enough to put into question the integrity of the election or its credibility.
There were fears and concerns about likelihood of voter apathy in that election as a result of the initial sit-at-home, order and the threats that, issued by IPOB and all of that. So this backtracking of a thing, could it be something that could change, maybe the direction in which the election?
That's a very good question. And I don't think so. Because people judge the world by their experiences, mostly. So, in the past several months, IPOB has shown that it is indeed willing to enforce any sit-at-home orders that it issued out. And indeed, people have actually been, even though the media don't say this enough, and it needs to be said, so that we can all agree that this is wrong. That a lot of people have been killed, a lot of people have sustained injuries as a result of IPOB trying to enforce its sit-at-home orders. So I don't think that because in this particular instance, IPOB now says, okay, we have backtracked, people are going to trust that and just jump freely onto the streets. They would judge that, comment by their previous experiences, which is that you cannot trust these people. They can still come out and do what they want. But we are running a pluralist electoral system. So I don't think voter apathy itself, first of all, I don't think that it's going to be much of a problem. Secondly, I don't think that IPOB alone it will be the cause of the apathy. If you have a low turnout tomorrow, I don't think IPOB or its orders alone will be the answer. The thing is, whenever you have off-season elections that are held in particular states rather than across the country as a whole, chances are that there will be low turnout. That's one. Secondly, in Nigeria, in the last since 1999, there has been the turnout in elections have just been going down and down and down and down. And I think about 2-3 weeks ago we did a story on that and collected the data to show how people have acted. So there is that trend already. Regardless of what happens with IPOB, there is that trend already demonstrated by facts and data that our participation in elections, people turning out to vote, that has been in decline already. So there's that one as well. So I don't see that maybe IPOB necessarily or the backtracking of their sit-at-home order will necessarily increase or decrease the turnout. What will count the most, I think, is the candidates. The capacity and maybe let me say the sagacity, of the individual candidates to mobilize their own voters to turn out. But also, most importantly, the extent to which the security operatives in the state can make people feel secure. It's one thing to deploy thousands of people, of security police officers into a state to conduct election. It's another thing for this deployment to actually give people a sense of security, because it can give them even the opposite. It can make them be even more afraid than they were when the security is not there, depending on the conduct of the police officers deployed. So if the police officers deployed are professional, are showing assistance to people, are being friendly to people, and are not reacting in our trigger happy or in the general trigger happy manner of Nigerian police, then chances are that even those who were initially skeptical and stayed back at home, they are going to be mobilized to come and vote, and we hope that they do.
Yeah, the problem with that is that the ordinary, the security agent is put in a situation where sometimes there could be mistrust as to he doesn't know who is an innocent civilian, and he doesn't know who is a possible attacker. So, and he has a responsibility to also defend himself. First, he has to be alive,
absolutely, yes,
before he can protect any other person.
Absolutely.
So, with that, thinking, being in that kind of a place, what do we expect, from our security agents in terms of exercising caution and all?
You're entirely correct. There's that thinking that you don't know who is IPOB and who is not IPOB. People who are in IPOB, they don't write it on their foreheads, so they don't wear uniform all the time, but sometimes you see them carrying flags or things like that. There is that one. But there is also the culture of the average police person. which is to react violently to the slightest provocation from Nigerian citizens, which is what led us to end SARS in the first place. You understand? So I think between these two, the culture is far more, of consequence here than even the need for the police to protect themselves. Because part of what it takes for them to protect themselves is the training that they receive, in terms of how to spot early warning signals about who may be thinking of attacking them, rather than, reacting impulsively to certain situations. What I fear the most is a situation where policemen see people fighting, because Nigerians are generally unruly, even without IPOP. So situations where you see people maybe arguing or just quarreling or something, which is pretty common at our polling booths, and then police people simply see that as an indication of conflict, and then panic, and then turn a bad situation into worse. That's where my fear is, but let's hope that will be avoided.
All right, let's move on to another story. Can you share your thoughts on the Orunsaye report and the federal government raising a committee, on that report?
I read the Orunsaye report. Interestingly, it's a very flimsy report. Each time people talk about it, it always annoys me that these people talking about it, have they actually read it? Because it doesn't really offer the kind of reform that you would expect as far as the cost of governance is concerned. The report, the need, the motivation for the Orunsaye report is that we have too many duplications of similar functions by different government agencies, to the extent that you don't know what's the difference between VIO, you don't know, and road safety, and many other within the same transport sector, just those ones who stay in the road to deal with our vehicles and so on. You don't even know who is doing what. And that's just one area. The Ministry of Science and Technology, just yesterday a report came to me. There are, literally 15, 16 different agencies. And you wonder which one is doing which one is doing it. That's the motivation. I don't think there's anyone who will disagree with this. The federal government has about more than 500 different agencies in the country, some of which you don't hear about them at all. You don't know what they are doing or exist. Some of them, in fact, you might be surprised that organizations like MAMSA, or things that, that you might be surprised to find that they are still there.
Absolutely.
And yes, and some people are still drawing salaries in them, because once the federal government forms a body, it is always reluctant to roll it over, even after its functions are no longer required, So the need is there. But the question is, how do you go about doing it? So the Orunsaye report, it looked at the two types, the ones that are enshrined in law and the ones that are established by executive order, that is presidents, non-statutory ones, the ones that were not formed by laws of the National Assembly. You understand? And then,
so would it require some kind of maybe constitutional amendment, for us to
maybe not
see the
constitutional
implementation of
amendment,
this?
just the repeal of these laws, not necessarily constitutional amendment. But what the report actually recommended is a reduction in the size of those ones that are not, something a president can do immediately. You understand? You can do it today as president, because these ones don't require any repeal in the law. You don't have to go to the National Assembly to try to lobby anyone to get those agencies changed, because they were formed in the first place directly in the office of the president. So to that extent, that was smart. So they recommended a reduction in their number from, I think, 260 or thereabout to about 103. But when I look at this 103, I feel that they can actually be reduced to 10 or 50.
So, but even with the 103, we are still neither here nor there on implementation of the report. I mean, it's been years since then.
Yes, that's to show you that governments are not really interested in doing that. The thing is this: it is the politics, and particularly the media politics, that is the issue here. We don't know the consequence of that media have on politics at all in Nigeria. I tell you, it is a lot. We're talking about restructuring, for example. And I think all of us here can agree that restructuring is a topical issue in our newspapers, in our television stations, and so on and so forth. But you see, when people talk about restructuring, they talk mainly about restructuring. What they use as unit of analysis is the states or the regions or the zones. Cool? That north, south, or this state or that state, or south, northeast, the distance. These are units of analysis for doing restructuring. If you restructure that way, you are also doing, you are restructuring, you are trying to reform society, you are trying to reform. But you can also use individual organizations of government as unit of analysis, in which case you'll be dealing directly with the issue of the cost of governance, which we are talking about now. So you can say the reform, the restructuring that needs to be done, either alongside the restructuring of the regions and of the constrained parts of the country, should also include the restructuring of governance as well, particularly the cost of governance. You don't hear about that. So because you don't hear about that, it is easy for any government to ignore reports such as the Orange report without incurring any political cost. This is the issue.
Okay. There's this story here on page 46, and it's on COVID-19. The PSC and Health Ministry, clashing over a 1.2 billion naira treatment fund. Can you shed more light on that?
Well, I don't know. Whenever you see two Nigerian agencies having problems like this, chances are that money is involved, and not just money, but everyone looking to make themselves appear that they are the overall protector of Nigerians. They are the ones doing the most. So chances are that it's just about who manages that same amount of money. Whether they are going to manage it on behalf of Nigerians, or whether they are going to manage it on behalf of Nigerians as efficiently and as effectively as required, these are totally open questions. But we can be sure that it's about who has final say over how that money is spent.
All right, then. Well, I think we would take a break now and then take a look at snippets of the documentary on Shekau. By that, we'll be able to come back and have a chit-chat with one of our correspondents who went on the field to do that report. But for newspaper review, we would have to end the discussion now. Thank you so much for coming and sharing perspectives with us on the stories that made the headlines, as always.
Thank you for having me.
We've been speaking with Suleiman. He's the Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust newspaper. Now let's take a look at this short clip. Stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes, with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
The killing of Muhammad Yusuf was deliberate. To me, it was deliberate to ignite a war.
We back our army.
Let's travel down to Shekau, a community in Yobe State, to talk to Shekau's mother.
I
think there is an element of truth that Abubakar Shekau is indeed dead this time around.
You have Boko Haram, your children are Boko Haram, every household has Boko Haram.
So zai buga lissafi in za ka shiga take za ka shiga.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital on Trust TV. And we just had a newspaper review with Suleiman, Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust. Now, we will be looking at, highlights, from that trip where we put together the documentary on Shekau. I mean, Shekau, at the mention of the name of Shekau, it's a name that a lot of people tremble
yes.
Because of what the person that people come to know the name
has done.
Done.
A lot of lives lost, a lot of communities, put down. Like, once you hear the name, you know that there's nothing good.
And I'm sure many people do not even know that it's actually a community.
Yes.
So it's a name that was adopted.
State. Yes, it's a local government in Yobe State.
So Abubakar Shekau, the former leader of Boko Haram, bears that name, and because of that name is a name that many people cannot imagine. Once you mention Shekau, everybody thinks, oh, terrorism. Well, we had one of our correspondents who went to Shekau, met the mother of the leader of Shekau, the leader of Boko Haram, Shekau, and had an interview, a conversation with her, and just generally, put together a documentary on that. And that person is Gaza Yakubu. He is in the studio with us to, just to give us highlights and on what to expect from that documentary. Remember, I told you it's going to be airing by 7 p.m. today on Trust TV, and also by 10 p.m. So he would just give us his experience while on the field. Well, good morning.
Good morning,
and it's good to have you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Well,
yeah.
When one watches the trailer, and see the explosions and the gunshots, and one imagines.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, exactly. Talking about Shekau is so interesting. It is so interesting because of the devastating effect, because of the impact he has had so much in the community, and talking about
negative.
Yes, yes. The negative impact is what I'm talking about in Maiduguri, especially, and then Nigeria at large. you know, when you hear Maiduguri, in fact, what resonates in the minds of the people is terror, Boko Haram and all that. But it is interesting at the moment because Maiduguri, yes, is healing again.
Okay.
Yeah, really.
Okay, well,
So-
let's actually talk about the mom, you know, because I can't even imagine what she must have been going through while everything was going down. You know, when you met her, you know, what kind of aura, what kind of woman was she, or is she?
Well, when I was given that assignment, you know, the first thing that came to my mind was what every random person would think. But I said, I mean, that's what journalists do. I mean, go to dig out fact. And when you see the woman, well, she's a poor woman. You see a very, she's humbled because our first conversation with her, you know, on a normal, she wouldn't have obliged or granted the interview, but she welcomed the idea and she was like, why not? What's there to hide about? I mean, this has been her story. It has been her feelings. It has been her pains. And, you know, and she regret ever conceiving, you know, that was the extent.
When a mother says that, then, you know, something else.
You would imagine that one will say that there can be no lost love between a mother and a child, but in this case, would you say that that has been lost?
Yeah, exactly, because at a point I remember she mentioning the fact that, well, she can't do without the fact that she is the mother of, you know, the so-called terrorists. And, you know, aside from that, but her regret has ever been the fact that, you know, the negative impact he has had on the society. And, you know, at the point she was like, it's been a long time she saw him and she doesn't even wish seeing him. Yeah, and, you know, so many regrets. They just need to watch out for the documentaries, or you people need to watch out for the documentaries.
We're really
so you
looking
can get
forward
more
to, you know,
in-depth
watching it. Like, you know, because I just read a bit, and apparently he left when he was a lot younger and then came only once.
Exactly.
Yes, and you have his uncle saying that he was a disaster to them, and, you know, the district head saying he was a terrorist. You know, he must have caused a lot, you know, for the community before even leaving.
Yeah, exactly, because one of the uncles will tell you that, look, if I'm not sure he's gone, I wouldn't have been talking to you right now. But for the fact that I'm confident that he's no more, then I can be able to grant this interview. And that was how, you know, we got some latest revelation that ordinarily we wouldn't have gotten from these relatives. And, you know, they will tell you how little he was and what he was doing. In fact, many people are of the opinion that, hey, this guy was really a craze. Because at that tender age, he left and then it took a long time before he came back. And when he came back, it was with a different ideology. And when they started listening to him, it wasn't what they were expecting. So the dad, you know, at that point said, look, I don't want to have anything to do with the son again because he's beyond me.
So his dad was still alive.
Exactly.
While he went to join the Boko Haram.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I am not sure of that because according to information, credible information, they will tell you that he left for, you know, Islamic school, and then later on he came back and then left again. But the second time he came back to the community, it was a different thing altogether. And well, we're not certain whether he had joined the group then. But of course, our observations should tell us that, of course, those ideology, probably somebody would have been popping those ideologies into him.
I'm imagining a scenario where he would travel and go for school, and he will not be seen for a long time before he gets back. I'm also imagining maybe, could it be for the Almajiri kind of a schooling he was doing while growing up?
Yeah, of course, yes, because when you talk about schooling, and not mostly, you know, most of them start with the Almajiri school, and of course that was what he was doing. His father was an Islamic teacher, and then he understands the Quran. With the information we got, he understands the Quran, and he could tell when a child is going, you know, it's going the other way.
Okay, Gaza, let's talk about you. What made you decide to do a documentary on Shekau? And then in the course of your travel, you know, where, aside Shekau, what other communities did you visit, or what other states did you visit?
Okay, I think it is not right to talk about me. Let's talk about Daily Trust and putting me at the forefront to do the documentary.
Yeah.
You know, we visited the IDP camps. Yes, we visited Shekau community. I've never imagined that Shekau was a community. Like you earlier said, you know, you would just imagine that, yes, it's that big terrorist. But yes, it was actually a community. And when I looked at the community, I was thrilled because I never imagined that such a community could have this name, you know, attached to itself. The IDP camp was a source of concern because when you look at the IDP, you think about the devastating effect of, you know, the aftermath of the Boko Haram thing and then the life they have been subjected to. And then, yes, we spoke to some numbers of Boko Haram, you know, members, and then we
ex-fighters.
Yes, and then we also, you know, the victims generally. The women that were married to this, fighters, we spoke to them too as well, and generally it was an interesting tour for me. It was an interesting moment for for me engaging this set of people.
Well, that's very interesting. It's a must-watch, I would say. I would have to
really
repeat that, you know, for our viewers to know that it's a must-watch. And perhaps you are thinking, well, I do not have Star Times decoder, I do not have free-to-air decoder, or I have DSTV. Well, you can watch on social media. So it's going to be streamed live on Facebook, on YouTube, and all our social media handles. So if you're not following us on social media, perhaps it's time to do that right now. Go to the Facebook page, Trust TV, and also go to our Instagram, our YouTube channel. You just click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see every other update that we upload on our YouTube, not just the documentary on Shekau. So I think that it's something that you want to do. Keep a date at 7 p.m. Just so that you can have an insight of what is Shekau really. You know, is it a name of a person or a place?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you feel? How do people feel when they hear the name Shekau?
Exactly.
Imagine passing through, you know, a particular state and then you see Shekau written. You know, what comes to your mind in that instance? Fear or?
Yeah, exactly. So perhaps it's time to unravel all of that mystery and all of that uncertainty around the name Shekau. Well, thank you so much, Gaza, for coming and giving us tips, you know, highlights on what to expect.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, a rising star will be joining us in the studio who is doing excellently well. She's a musician from the north, and you need to listen to her when she sings. I mean,
she's a hijabi musician. Yes, a hijabi MC. She's a rapper, and you don't have a lot of them, you know, in Nigeria or in the world today. So.
Really. All right, so stay with us. When we come back, you get to know who we are talking about. Please stay with us.
The killing of Muhammad Yusuf was deliberate. To me, it was deliberate to ignite a war.
Our army.
Let's travel down to Shekau, a community in Yobe State, to talk to Shekau's mother.
I think there is an element of proof that Abubakar Shekau is indeed dead this time around.
You have Boko Haram, your children are Boko Haram, every household has Boko Haram.
So zai buga lissafi in za ka shiga take za ka shiga.
Nice to see you, son. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a chill boy. And how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allowed it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. For our second discussion, like my co-anchor Ayuba said earlier, we have a hijabi MC right here in the studio, and her name is Salz Fatiti, and she has made the North believe that you can still be a hijabi and also a great music star. You know, coming from a conservative society, Fatima has broken that barrier by being one of the few Arewa, female Arewa rappers to grace the stage. And she's in the studio to talk about her struggles as a female artist from the North. Hello, Fatima.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, can you tell us a bit about yourself, first of all?
Okay, my name is Fatima Muhammad Salis, known as Salz Fatiti. I'm from Katsina State, actually. I did my primary school there, secondary school in Katsina, Oyo Albab, and then I went down to my university in Ahmad Bello University, Zaria. I started music. I wouldn't say I started music at home. I would say I started with poems. For my mom. My mom is late. Then I went to school, university, and then
she
I started
was a poet?
singing. Yes.
Okay.
She used to sing poems and all that.
Okay.
So I went to EBU Zaria. I started singing at my 100 level, but I stopped because it was messing with my studies.
Okay.
So I had to stop. And then when I finished school, people were saying I should make covers, and I started making covers. And that was where I met Alijita. Okay. And he invited me to his album launch here in Abuja. That was, I think, 2018. And then I sang there. From there, people started seeing me and all. And then I started singing my own songs. So, and then here I am today.
Okay. Quite interesting, really. So for how long have you been doing this, music thing, seriously?
Professionally, I would say, I think 3 years, 2 to 3 years. From 2019. Past 3 years, yeah? 19, 20, 21, yeah. 3 years.
Okay, can you tell us about your journey in the music industry?
Okay, that's a hard one actually. You know, one thing about the North, I would say, is like they don't accept females doing so many things, especially music. Yeah, music is one thing that they don't accept female doing. So I have like a lot of challenges. I still do. When I started, accepting me was a problem, but then people from my music industry actually helped me out because they accepted me. I started with English. And you know, in the North, if you're an English singer, nobody really, So I tried to merge in. Then I started putting Hausa in my songs. I did my first Hausa song with Nazifi Asnanik. That was Hello. It was like pure Hausa. And then he groomed me, and now I'm doing my songs. It's English and Hausa, but it's mostly English. I'm trying to pitch the Hausa in, coming from northern Nigeria.
All right, now, I mean, someone is curious and we're thinking, okay, why North? I mean, you can do English, you can speak English fluently, you can sing in English. And then you could look Western, even in your dressing and everything, but you insist, you know, of depicting this northern, picture. Why are you doing that?
Okay. The thing is that whenever you want to start something, you have to start it comfortably. And this is me being comfortable. This is not about any other person or how they see me or stuff. This is just me being comfortable in my own culture. And then I know that you're going to ask, why English? Why can't you just switch to English and stop doing Hausa? The thing is that they always say, wherever like life takes you, you should remember where you're from. So I'm trying to pitch in and push my own culture. If you notice, people from the southern part or western part, they actually sing in their own native languages too. So it's actually a pride for me to be singing in my own local language, because I can see that Mr. Easy also loves people that sing in Hausa and stuff. As you can see, he's endorsing DJ AB and Namenj, and they are mostly house singers.
Okay, so what kind of music, what does your music focus on basically?
Two things I'd say. Mostly about life, like my surroundings, and then about love.
Why
no, love sells. Love sells a lot.
Why did you laugh when you mentioned love?
I knew you were going to laugh too. And then love.
Okay, there must be something with that, which is why I believe you are laughing.
With the love?
Is it that it's a controversial word, you know, as we know it? Is it about the acceptance in the northern part of the country, or what exactly is different about the word, and why you giggled when we said
okay,
love?
The thing is that everybody has a thing to say about love. It's either like a bad experience or a good one, but mostly it's like good experiences. And everybody has a feeling, tingly when it comes to love. So people love music that has to do with love. It was heartbreak songs that I was singing before, but now they're like fully in love songs that I'm singing, because I'm in love.
Wow.
Oh, you're not. Oh, that's a nice one. All right,
well,
so
interesting to preach love, really. I mean, after all, we all need it.
Yeah, we do. You know, love makes the world go round. So, you know, so how has the response been?
About love
from
thingy?
Fans, no, from your songs, on your songs, the kind of music you sing and everything.
Okay, I noticed that when I sing songs that have Hausa in them, people accept it more. But they're not like saying they don't like the English version. And I feel like you have to give people show people who you are and give them what you have for them to accept you. So as I'm accepting them, they're actually accepting me, and I actually appreciate that.
So do you think that, you know, the Hausa speaking audience, you know, could actually push you or to where you aspire to attain, you know, musically and all of that? Do you think that that is possible?
Actually, I don't feel like the Hausa audience alone are enough to push me. I don't see myself being a Nigerian artist alone. I want to go global. So I need to do English, Hausa, and so many other things to capture attention from every angle. So the Hausa people alone cannot push me. They're like my roots. So that's why I'm trying to stick to what they love, but they are not the only people that can push me.
Okay, do you have non-Hausa fans?
Yes, a lot.
Wow.
My English songs are for them.
Okay, so but what about what's their take on your Hausa English, you know, songs? Considering that, you know, most of them don't understand or speak Hausa.
Actually, they actually love it. I keep seeing comments that they don't even know what I'm saying, but they love the sound of it and stuff like that. So that's encouraging too.
Okay, now this genre, I would say, is almost like a new path that you are going. I mean, I'm not sure if there are many people. There are a few persons, bilingual rappers and singers and all that, but not many, are towing this path. So, how far do you think you can go, with this, and how much of collaboration is there between you and others?
Okay. Speaking of how far I think I can go with this, I actually encourage myself. People encourage me too, but I encourage myself. I don't think like because this person is not doing this code, this is not usual, I shouldn't do it. No, I actually do it. There's always going to be a first person that does something that will make others join in. Like, because since I started singing, I noticed that female artists actually coming out to sing. I can see them online singing, and people that were not using English and Hausa, usually now they've started using English and Hausa, and I'm actually proud of that. Because okay, they're making it seem like okay, it's a norm now. Everybody can do that. So I'm not the only person that is doing it right now. And about collaborations, also I'm going to say this. I'm going to bring Namej into this. I noticed that people from the other side love people that sing in Hausa and English because I can see them having collaborations with them. DJ AB had one with Mr. Easy. Namej too had one with Jobo just recently. So I think even them accepting the fact that we sing in our native language, because we listen to their Yoruba songs and all that, so all of us are encouraging each other. It's a good thing.
Very interesting. I know a couple of persons. I mean, it's not been long that I got to realize that someone like Dija, is from the north, all of that. And when I listen to her, I get to see that, that similarity, and it's really interesting that you have some of these talents, in the north. But we'll talk about why there's need for the narrative to change and why there's need for that paradigm shift in the north, especially when it comes to arts and entertainment, generally. But before that, let's take a look at one of your videos. I'm sure some of our viewers are just watching, okay, who is she and all of that, what can she do? Well, just have a slice of what our guest has put together for you. Well, there you have it. We are one by our guests. I mean, it's very, very interesting that we have, that video.
Yeah, it is. It shows a lot of. It's different, like you said. It's a different narrative from the norm. But one question I really want to ask, Sals Fatiti is, how do you find balance being a black female MC and also Islam? How do you find balance, with being these four?
That's a good question. Okay, I think I have to take us back. I skipped one part when I was telling you about my biography. Before I started singing, I wanted to sing since when I was little, but my parents and family were saying that I can't sing because of what you just said right now. So when they noticed that it's a thing that I have passion for and I can't do without it, my dad called me. We had this conversation. He told me that he spoke to someone about me singing, and the person, it's like a malam, and the person told him that music is allowed Islamically when it doesn't have instruments and words that you say. It shouldn't be
circular.
Yes. Vulgar. Yes. So you need to know what you're talking about. If it's, I don't know how to say this in English. They say, let's see, Fadakarwa, that's what the
awareness.
Yes, if it's creating awareness, thank you very much. It's a good thing. And I feel like talking about love, it's a good thing too, because it's like creating awareness on certain parts of love. So I was having that, and then they gave me rules. Don't do this. Part of it is trying to be where I'm now. And I feel actually comfortable being like this because I'm a kind of tomboy, so wearing stingy and all that, it's not my thing. So those are some things that I actually went through when I was starting the music. And now it's been like a part of me. And that's why I said that wherever you're going to, you have to remember where you came from. Like, this is me taking my culture. I'm trying to sing and then show people that you can actually be a singer and still be a modest, cultured singer.
Okay.
Yes.
So, the truth is that there is no taking away the fact that you are a musician from the north.
Yes.
We have several such musicians, and some of them, feel like they have to leave the north to be successful musically.
Yes.
Maybe because of certain things in the north.
Yes.
Why do you think that the north is having such, I would say, a problem with music and entertainment?
I have to be very honest. I'm a very honest person and very straightforward. At a point in my life, I started feeling that way, that I have to leave this place. That was when I started singing in English, because they were not accepting me. So I was feeling like I have to leave this place to make it. And I totally understand people that want to live here to make it, because some of our people are not encouraging. They can encourage someone from another place, but they look down on people from this side of the music. And it's not supposed to be like that. If you can go outside your region and, encourage the other person, encourage people here too. So, but I spoke to myself that if all of us are gathering ourselves and living here and going outside, so who is going to do it here? So you have to do it here, no matter how hard it is. And this is another challenge. You have to tell yourself, if you want to do something, you have to be like deaf to what people say. They will insult you, this one, that one, but just keep on doing, because if you don't do stuff like that, you can't even achieve what you want.
All right, what's the inspiration behind you singing the song Africa?
My God, Africa, go back there. Africa, go back there. I know we have a lot of problems here, especially in Nigeria and stuff like that, but Africa is a beautiful place. Like I said, it's green, everything, greener pastures, whatever. We have so many things that are good here, but we don't see it. We're just hustling to go abroad and stuff like that. So we need to encourage our people that, like I said, you send a message through music, and that was a message. And I'm very sure that people that were not into our Africa, blah, 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 now they're actually into it.
Okay, so do you see yourself, collaborating with other artists, like the likes of, actually MCs, like the likes of Classic, or other artists in Lagos?
Yes, actually I do. But I want to start from the north. Now I'm working towards Ado Gwanja and Umar M. Sharif, because they are like two people that are doing things that are different from what I'm doing. So I'm trying to encourage myself and push myself out of my comfort zone to do things with people that are out of my, what I do, so that it will push me. And from Lagos, I'm working on one with DJ too.
Okay.
I look forward to working with Buju, though we haven't spoken to him yet, but we're going to do that. My management is going to reach out, and I hope it works out.
Okay, I hope it does too.
And I like Chike too a lot.
Oh,
I hope you will reach out for me.
For love. Yes, you would sing for love.
The bull of the bullets, is that right?
Yes, bull of the bullets.
All right. Well, now, how important, is music, to us in terms of promoting culture and, promoting love, unity, in our society, specifically the northern region? If you look at the part of the north now, we are dealing with high level of insecurity, and the entire country, on the other hand, is also dealing with issues of disunity and hate and all of that.
Yes.
How important is the tool of music?
Like I said before, music is one thing that reaches out to everybody. It's portrays, it gives messages, it passes out messages in like easy ways. And I did a song, it's a rephrase of Alicia Keys's We Are Here. It's called Munanan. So I did that about my own country, Nigeria, because things were happening. That was when they took Chibok girls and all the stuffs. And with music, we can actually reach out to a wider audience. And we can't even lie about it, that music is one tool, one good tool that we actually use to send messages to people. And no matter how hard we are going to say music is not good, it actually helps in portraying messages and giving out messages and so many other things. So I think it's really important in that aspect.
There's this seeming generational gap that exists, and between the older generation and the younger generation. Do you think that this tool of music, is a very important instrument that could be used to, bridge that gap?
Yes, when used in the proper way, actually. When used in the proper way. One thing I want to talk about is lately people sing about so many things that are off the charts. So if we focus on singing about things that are actually important, things that matter at the moment, I think it will be a good thing.
Do you get called to, perform in events and shows a lot? I'm trying to figure out how much.
Every time.
Every time.
Yes.
And the reception, what's it like from people?
From people?
Yes.
Okay, when I'm about to sing, or when I have an event, a day two, I actually get nervous. Even when I came here, I was a bit nervous, but now I'm okay. But when I start singing, okay, they'll be like, who's this girl? What's she coming to do? Especially when I'm wearing native thing, they'll just be looking at me dumbfoundedly. But when I start singing, you see their faces, they'll start smiling and all that, and then it encourages me and it makes me comfortable, and then I sing.
So you think this approach of yours, the dressing and everything, you think that it could change the stereotype
it
that
makes
is
people
often
think like you don't know what you're doing sometimes. If you see me on the street walking now, you can't say this girl is a singer. But if I was wearing, let's say, if I was in a tomboy kind of thing, they say she's a singer, you'd be like, yeah, of course she looks like one. But like this, they don't believe it. They have to see me doing it for them to believe it. And I like it. I like giving people surprises, making them surprised and all that.
Okay, do you see yourself branching out to other genres?
Yes.
Because we've heard of, we know a lot of people who were rappers and are now singers.
Yes. Okay, I started with rap when I was in school, but I was not good at it, so I had to switch to singing. But lately, I've started rapping again. I'm just giving it a try because I feel like you can go out of your comfort zone and do so many other things. Actually, I like patois style too. I'm not sure I can do that yet, but I'm working on it. So it's a good thing to be, having everything. Yeah.
Versatile.
Yes, versatile, exactly.
All right. You have a new single.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
We want to take a look at it. Okay. And then when we come back, you tell us, the idea behind it and how far do you see it going.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. Let's take a look at that.
You are the one to give my heart. You are the one to give my soul. You are my Maradona. You are my Shafirina. You are the one I pay my love to. You are the one to give myself to. Baby, tell me why me, why me, why me? Oh, baby, tell me why me, why me, why me? Tundana ganka, nasakaka reina, ni kadai aranka, na baka kaina, ni da kai mun dace. Makiya mun tace, ni da kai mun dace, ashan mi mata ce. Kai ne Maradona, kai ne Shafirina, kai ne Maradona, kuma kai ne Shafirina, Maradona, Shafirina.
I mean, you could listen to that angelic voice for the whole day without even noticing, that the time has really gone. That was Sal's Fatiti's voice, and it's very interesting that we have such, I would say, a star in the studio, talking to us about, some of our experiences, as far as our journey is concerned. Now, tell us about your new single and the inspiration behind it and how far you see it going.
Okay. My new single is called Maisuna. It's actually combined English and Hausa. I did the song for my boyfriend, actually.
Interesting. Perhaps it's...
Why
perhaps we'll get to meet your boyfriend.
Why does she blush every time?
Yeah, it's my boyfriend. He inspired me to sing the song.
Okay.
There's Hausa and English. The beginning was like English, and then the second verse I rapped about it because I was trying to see if I could do it, and it actually came out well. People like it. It's trending on TikTok, and I love it too.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. What advice do you have for ladies, especially Muslim ladies who want to be like you?
Okay. First, I would say you have to be strong to want to sing in the northern part of Nigeria, and you have to turn deaf ears to everything that people will say. So far, your family has to be okay with you singing, because you can't say you want to just sing without having support from your family. And secondly, I would advise that whatever you're going to do, it should be within boundaries and limits. You shouldn't go out of your limits. That's from your family. And also, you should know what you're singing about. Don't just come and be singing blah, 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 blah. Even if people will listen to it at that time, they'll forget about you. You have to sing about meaningful things for them to always remember you and always use you as an example.
Well, aside doing music, do you have a career? Do you have any other thing you're doing? You have some people who actually, double up.
I totally understand.
Okay.
Actually, music is my main focus, but I sell perfume, shoes.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so give us a sense of the kind of people that inspire your music, and what you hope to achieve in the coming years.
Okay, internationally, James Otto, Sam Smith, and Beyonce. Here in Nigeria, I'm going to say this, it's going to sound awkward, but I'm going to say Davido actually. It's not about how he sings, it's how he goes on doing stuff. I mean, he's singing, even with people bashing him and all that. So I like the way that he's strong.
Like the vibe, the energy.
Yes, exactly. So he encourages me. Thames, I love Thames because she's someone that I feel like we have something in common, because what she's doing is something that is not random, but she's still pushed, and now she's where she is. And Tio Savage, I like Tio Savage. I like Chike. Yes.
The boo.
And I like Johnny Drill.
Okay.
Yes. So those are the people that I love. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now, the second part of my question, about where do you see yourself in the next few years? What are the kind of projects that you see yourself embarking on, in times to come?
In the next few years, I would love to go international. Not just like being known. I want to start small, because I'm trying to push right now. Next year, inshallah, I'm going to Paris, which I didn't expect, but they reached out to me.
Okay, interesting.
Also, this month, I might go to Dubai this month for a conference and sing there. You see, this is actually me going international. Also, I need to work on an EP next year, but not an album yet, maybe in the next 2 years, because I don't feel like rushing to do things is good. I want to take my time to do something that is meaningful. So I don't want to do an album now, just an EP. 4 songs, max. And then have collaborations too. That's really good.
And it's very important
Yes,
as well.
important.
And hopefully in time you'll be nominated in the Grammys.
Amen.
Very, very soon.
Well, thank you so much. Interesting to have you in the studio, discuss this, issues with us in the studio. We've been speaking with Sars Fatiti, a rising star, you may say, from the northern part of the country that has chosen to depict the North in all that she does and preach love, most importantly. Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming. Hope to have you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. We'll be taking a short break now, and then when we come back, we'll be wrapping up the show. Please stay with us. All right. Well, our break would come much later on the program. But again, this is an interesting conversation that we had today.
Yes,
in case that you have not been part of this conversation, you can watch us on YouTube later, on other social media platforms as well. And what we told you earlier about the documentary that we are going to be premiering today,
on Sheikhout.
talking about the end of Sheikhout.
Yeah.
It's something you should watch out for. By 7 p.m. you are going to be watching that, and also there'll be a repeat of that at 10 p.m. We told you that already, but this is just a reminder to make sure that you tune in. Well, let's go on this break, and then when we come back, we'll be wrapping up. Right, thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, and I'll say that, well, you're almost late because we've had quite a lot on the show this morning. Now, we will be taking a look at a report. Now, talking about, cultural preservation in the North. Our correspondent in Kano did a special report. Yes, he did a special report about the ancient walls, that were, serving as a protection for the communities at the time, from external aggression and all of that. But, over time, urbanization is creeping in, and those walls are falling. Take a look at that report, and then when we come back, we'll take perspectives on that.
It is hard to imagine that this is anything but a swamp in the shadow of a mount. But this water channel is part of Kano's ancient wall, once a unique structure for the fortification that drew visitors from around the world to help develop and define the city.
The Kano city wall was built upon 3 phases. The first phase is around 11th to 12th century. This is the first phase. The first shape, or the first phase of Kano city wall, 100 years, from 1100 to 1200.
As a center for Islamic learning and scholarship, Kano is part of the 7 walled cities that made up the Hausa Fulani Kingdom of northern Nigeria. The city's wall, built between 1095 and 1134 by the then Emir of Kano, Gijimasu, is about 15 meters or 50 feet high, with 15 gates around it, made up of the Dala Hill, the Emir's Palace, the Kurmi Markets, and the 500-year-old diapets for the defense of its people.
Erecting the Kano city wall, just like preparing for a war, because at that time there was so many states that are trying to come and fight Kano. More especially Borno is there, Kwararafa is there, Katsina and others. All that time it was a time, we will say that it's just like a time of war. Who are if you are powerful, over the other. You'll just go there and capture them, and at times sell their people as a slave. So that's why that Gijimasu think that, okay, how do I make peace in my place? Let me erect this. Let me start erecting the wall.
The famous 15th century Kurmi market tells a story of how merchants from around the world traded in Kano for generations, while the walls and guild helped protect it as a commercial hub of the sub-Saharan Africa. But nature and man haven't been kind. 80% of the wall is gone. Modern structures and other encouragement marred its beauty and prevented it from being listed as UNESCO World Heritage Site.
That is the problem that prevent us to be on the UNESCO list. That is because of the encouragement by the government and some individuals that make us not to qualify for that tentative list.
Meanwhile, competition from imported fabrics sold at the popular Kantinkori textile market, these 500-year-old dye pits now appeared almost useless, although it remains popular among locals and tourists. Despite continuous fading glory of Kano city wall and gates, there have been attempts by some concerned authorities toward rebuilding some of the gates. The Emir's ancient palace in Kofar Kudu has been rehabilitated. The popular Sabuwar Kofa has been reconstructed. Kofar Dan Agundi, Kofar Gadankaya, and a few other gates were repositioned and renovated. Nevertheless, modern structures are fast replacing the last peaceful reminders of its glorious past.
More than 80% or 90% is already gone because of encouragement. Weather has contributed to the destruction of the part of the city wall, and a lot of encouragement. And people are using human activities, because people are always you get people going there using the part of the wall, taking the part of the wall to refill their own, to fill some part of their buildings.
At the foot of this hill that the Emir of Kano, Gijimasu, first started building the walls, visitors still do come here every year for traditional ceremonies. But there are no more guards or gates to protect it, not even a sign to mark it. However, the expectations of most Kano people is that efforts towards preservation, protection, and promotion of Kano city wall and gates needs to be undertaken quickly. Otherwise, history will be harsh and unkind to the present generation of Kano people and indeed northern Nigerians. Idris Jubrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Well, these walls, if I can remember, were built between 1095 and 1095 and 1134. Yes, they were built within that time, and then the 14th century they were completed. So these walls are actually as old as time, and it has actually served as a tourist attraction for a lot of people. A lot of people come in from outside Nigeria, from within the country, just to see or just to glare at the beauty of these walls, and it has actually been revamped over time. As you can see, they still look beautiful and everything, but like you said earlier, there are lots of factors responsible, for the walls, should I say, wearing out?
Dissolving, yeah.
Yes, wearing out. One, they're very old, very old.
Yes, and I think that probably the whole conversation about climate change could be
exactly
part of
another
why
factor.
We are seeing these changes. The world has really evolved. The world has become more and more industrialized. So we are seeing change in patterns of the weather and all of that. So maybe those are some of the factors that are responsible for that. But however, they need to be preserved.
Yeah.
How they are going to be preserved, well, I don't know. The experts will know.
But definitely something can be done.
Yes.
And, you know, Idris actually talked about modernization being another factor. Does that change anything? Because, you know, you have ancient cities, not just kind of other ancient cities that have, you know, ancient monuments that are still being preserved till now. So no matter how modernized a state is.
I mean, if you go, Egypt is a very classic example of how these monuments are being preserved. Well, we hope that something is done. I mean, this could serve as a source of revenue for the state.
Yes.
I mean, if you talk about, you know, tourism and all of that, this is a very good tourist attraction.
Well, insurgency is also a factor, especially within or around the states. You know, talking about Kaduna, you know, Katsina, you know, a lot of people do not want to travel through the roads, you know, due to, you know, kidnappings and banditry. So I think that is another factor.
True. And, you know, they are very historical things that, well, like we said, could be preserved, monuments that could be preserved. I recall while growing up, we heard about the myth, you know, about, you know, these walls, you know, that the bodies of slaves or maybe prisoners of war are used and taken, you know, are taken and used to erect these structures and all of that. These are myths, you know, that could be interesting to hear, you know, for some of us who are now alive now. So, interestingly, that we need to preserve, you know, these monuments so that they could serve as source
for future, and also, you know, serve as history for future generations as well.
Very, very true. Well, with that, I would say, well, we've come to the end of Daybreak for today. We hope that you join us again on the show for another time on the program. We do this every weekday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. This is the show you want to watch. A lot more is coming into the show. I would say if you're not yet loyal to the show, you should begin to.
This is the time.
Yeah, to consider that, because a whole lot more is coming in to this show. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Like I said, you can catch up on our YouTube channel and also on our social media handles. My name is Ayuba Ilya.
And I am Darshan Husseina Usman. Thanks for watching.
Bye.